Hello, welcome back to Channel 5 News, the premier news station for Atchison, Kansas.
Today we have an interesting discovery. One of our own has been struck down by tuberculosis.
Many questions are unanswered at this time. The victim was working at the plant when he dropped dead with a sudden death related to the mysterious Mycobacterium TB.
Let's switch to you, Anna. She's in the hospital where Bob passed away earlier today.
Brittany and Kristen, here I am at Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital, where Bob passed away just a few hours ago. The reported cause of death is tuberculosis, but many of our questions are still unanswered as to where Bob contracted the disease and who all could be affected. The State Health Department has been notified and is undergoing an investigation as we speak. I've gotten to speak with the coworker next to Bob during the collapse. They are currently being tested, and airborne precautions are being taken due to the close contact between Bob and his coworkers. I'm going to now go speak with him now, but before that I need to put on a mask, gown, and gloves due to the precautions. Hello, Brittany and Kristen. Here I am at Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital with Bob's coworker and close friend, Emilio. So, Emilio, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Bob?
Yeah. Bob and I were pretty close. He's been staying at my house for the past couple weeks since he got back from India. He was doing mission work over there, and for the past 4 years, building houses for the homeless. He was a real stand-up guy, and I was happy to help him anytime I could.
I see here, Emilio, that they have you hospitalized. If you don't mind, could you tell us what are some of your symptoms?
Yeah, for the past week I've been coughing up blood. I've been waking up really sweaty. I've had a small fever, chills, and I've been really tired lately.
Okay. Well, we see that they have you receiving meds. Have they told you whether or not you've been diagnosed with TB yet?
No, not yet, but I'm anxious to know, that's for sure. I don't want to end up like Bob.
Do you know what kind of test they're using to diagnose you?
Dr. Gray took my blood and tested that, and later today I have to get a picture taken of my chest, and every time I spit up gunk, they take it from me. They say they're testing it. Seems kind of gross.
So, Emilio, how will this affect your life after the hospital?
Well, they say I'll be on antibiotics for 6 to 9 months, and then every year after that I will have to get a chest x-ray to make sure it's not spreading.
Okay. All right, Emilio, thank you so much for letting us talk to you today. This is Anna with Channel 5. Back to you, Kristen and Brittany.
Thank you, Anna. This investigation is still developing. Currently, medical personnel are contacting everyone who has been in contact with Bob in the past 3 weeks since he has been back from India. Today with us we have a historian, Linda, to tell us about the history of tuberculosis in the world.
Well, the disease that we know as tuberculosis has been around infecting the human race since about 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. We have even found the bacteria that it causes tuberculosis in ancient Egyptian mummies. Crazy as that sounds. In the 18th century, tuberculosis really reached its peak in Western Europe due to overcrowded and poorly ventilated housing, poor sanitation, malnutrition, and other risk factors. During this time, it came to be known as the White Plague because of how pale the victims would get when they were suffering from active tuberculosis. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, tuberculosis caused more deaths than any other disease. By the late 19th century, 70 to 90% of the urban population was infected with tuberculosis, and it caused about 40% of all working class deaths. For most of the 19th century, tuberculosis was actually thought of as a hereditary disease rather than an infectious one until the discovery of the bacterium that causes tuberculosis in 1882 by Robert Koch. He demonstrated the bacteria could be seen with a new type of bacteria stain, but previously it could not be seen. Also, in the 19th century, the way that tuberculosis was treated began to change with the introduction of sanatoriums, which started in the mid-1800s in Europe, made its way over to the United States, and really gained prevalence in the early to mid-20th century. Sanatoriums were places where people with tuberculosis were isolated, clean air, good food, rest, and some were actually treated with surgery to remove one lung or collapse a part of a lung or a whole lung. In 1895, x-rays were developed which aided in diagnosis of tuberculosis, but a vaccine did not come around until 1921. The BCG vaccine was introduced then, and it was not until the mid-20th century that effective drugs to treat tuberculosis were developed and introduced to the public.
Thanks so much for educating us on this historic disease.
Here with us live tonight is Mary and Emily, who are experts in microbiology with an emphasis on Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, Mary, what exactly happens to the body when you have tuberculosis?
TB is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, a slow-growing aerobic bacillus that is somewhat resistant to the body's immune system. It occurs in two stages. The first stage is the primary stage, where the bacillus is engulfed by macrophages. These macrophages congregate to form a granuloma with living bacilli inside it. This mass is called a tubercle. Later, it advances to the secondary stage. Normally, in this stage, your body's immune system, the fibrous tissue, would close off the tubercles, and you would be safe. However, in tuberculosis, your immune system is too weak, the tubercles break down, and you develop the active disease.
Okay. How is this disease spread to others?
You're on.
Well, Brittany, tuberculosis is spread by tiny droplets of the infected person's bodily fluids, and airborne precautions should be taken. This means unless you have been in close contact with Bob or his spit, dried spit, you should be in the clear.
How common is it that someone from this area would have gotten this infection?
Now it's going. All right, you're on.
Okay. Well, it is uncommon in the United States. As of 2014, there are about 3 reported cases for every 100,000 people, but all over the world, just the United States, tuberculosis is a problem. About 1/3 of the world's population is infected with TB, and it is the #1 killer of persons infected with HIV. As you can see, the darker blue states are the states that it is the most common and have reported the most cases, and the light blue states are only moderately reported. And the white states, they have not had very many cases reported, less than 2.
What's the most curable part of this disease?
Tuberculosis is a very curable disease, but some strains are becoming multi-drug resistant. Globally, there's an estimated 480,000 people infected with multi-drug resistant tuberculosis.
Thanks so much for meeting with us today. You have been very informative.
Just remember, folks, this disease is caused by a bacteria spread by droplets. It's a very curable disease if caught early.
Make sure to be on the lookout for the early signs and symptoms of fever, chills, night sweats, productive or bloody cough.
If you have any questions, please contact your primary care provider and get an appointment as soon as possible.
That's all for tonight's show.
Tune in tonight for our late night show at 10 p.m.